Good morning. Today on Spotlight, a special salute to the people who have served and are currently serving in the United States Armed Forces industry. May is National Military Appreciation Month. In honor of that, we'll highlight the importance of the work these men and women do with our special guest. Former Congresswoman Candace Miller of Macomb County recently appointed a member of the Air and Space Force's Civic Leaders Program. And from Oakland County, Lieutenant Colonel Sean Carlson, Deputy County Executive and a United States Air Force career veteran. And Tyrone Jordan, Veterans Resource Fair Coordinator for Oakland County. It's Sunday, May the 7th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is a special Spotlight. You're a member of an advisory panel for the United States Air Force, and you're going to be advising the bigwigs there in the military in Washington, D.C. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, I was just recently selected, and it's called the Civic Leadership Group, and it's for the Air Force and the Space Command. And you are literally hand-selected by the Secretary of the Air Force, the Joint Chief of the Air Force, and the Joint Chief of the Space Command. About 30 people, and each one of us are sort of ambassadors, advocates for our local base. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them are for active duty bases, and of course we have Selfridge Air National Guard base. And I think they thought it was important to have somebody really advocating as well for the Air Guard and the Air Reserve, because really fully 1/3 of their entire budget for the Air Force is Guard and Reserve. So anyway, it's a great thing.
And there's never been anyone from Michigan in that position?
Never has been anyone from Michigan, so I'm delighted to be there and talk to them about all the great and wonderful things that are happening in Michigan and how important we are from a strategic standpoint. And when I was there, you know, this Chinese spy balloon had just traversed across the country.
Drew a lot of attention.
And, you know, then there was one that was shot down up in Lake Huron. And I said, you know, we all have to think about, Michigan is a border state. And we think about the northern border and strategically, et cetera. So for lots of reasons, I'm delighted to be there. And of course, I couldn't be more honored than to be an advocate for the entire Air Force and Space Command, not just Selfridge, of course, but all of the brave men and women in our military, whether they're active, Guard, Reserve, what have you, that really...
All the different branches coming together. You're going to meet 3 times a year, I think once in Washington, and then 2 times it will be at various bases?
Yes, various bases. In fact, they're going to, I think in July, we're going to be perhaps seeing a launch down at Cape Canaveral. With the Space Command. And of course, that's an interesting thing with the Space
Well, that's kind of the newest wing of all this, of the military.
It really is. Yeah. I'll tell you, the Space Command, it is dazzling listening to them. And it's also so important because the world is changing. And when you start to hear, we've already had some, you know, obviously the highest level briefings. They're not classified, but they're very high level brief. And about the kinds of things that are happening in space. Some of our allies and some who are not so friendly to us and what they are doing in space. And it really is sort of the new frontier, I think. So it's a very critical component of the military going forward, certainly.
And all of this ties together, certainly throughout all your years in Congress. You were a great friend of Selfridge Air National Guard Base. They made you an honorary commander. I think we have a photo of that we'll be putting on the screen to show where you were given that honor and that distinction.
The A-10s, I mean, there's 18 A-10s there. There's 8 KC-135s, which are the refuelers. So they have the ability to engage, and they do in every excursion, in every theater that we have ever been involved with. So it's a very important thing.
Excuse me for interrupting. You were a big proponent of having the Air National Guard joint, or I guess it would be the chief executive there, lifted up to a 4-star status, and also making sure that they were a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yes.
Why?
And you know, I don't talk about various awards, but I was awarded from the National Guard something they call the Harry S. Truman Award. They've given it to people like Ronald Reagan or Bob Hope in the past, and so I was very honored. But it was my amendment that really gave the Air National Guard a seat with the Joint Chiefs. at the table. So now, listen, if you don't have a seat at the table, you might be an item on the menu, okay? So you need to be there.
I have to remember that one.
You need to be there. And it was and then John McCain got it through the Senate at that time. So now they do have a seat there. And when you think about, for instance, when we were in Iraq, in Afghanistan, again, somewhere in the 30 percentile of everybody who was in theater was a guard or reservist. And you know what, Chuck? The bullet doesn't know if you're active duty or you're guard and reserve. So we need to have all of the same kind of training for Air Guard and Reserve. We need to have the same kind of assets as far as, you know, we're not really interested in all these legacy airplanes. At Selfridge, we're trying to get a follow-on fighter mission now for our brave men and women that are there. And so, you know, we need to be treated with parity and equity, and that has happened in a very big way now.
All right, we need to take a quick little pause for the calls. We'll come right back. We'll talk about some of the training and the jobs that are potentially at stake if people want to go into the military, whatever branch.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Candace Miller right after this. And welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Candace Miller in one of her advisory positions here. This will be a 4-year term?
Yes, they're 4 years. And then if they want to re-up you, apparently they can, or you could go to emeritus status, so we'll see. But it is a 4-year term. I've just begun, and it's very interesting.
Congresswoman, part of the role of being on this committee is also to get a feel of what the public feels about the military. How are you going to do that? And that ought to be interesting in these interesting times that we're living in.
You know, one thing that has happened, not just with the Air Force, but all of the military, they're a bit down in recruiting. Now you think about, for 50 years now, we've been all volunteer service. So that's something that I really want to help everybody with, that, you know, there are so many great opportunities for individuals to join, whether it's the Air Force or the you know, any of the militaries. It really is, there's tremendous opportunities there. There's been quite a bit of focus on pay grades, on housing for military families, on all of these things. There's tremendous career opportunities for men and women really in the military, so recruiting is very important. If I'm looking at somebody's resume and I see that they've served in the military, I know that they have had extensive training, that they've
certain amount of discipline.
Yes, all of those kinds of things. I mean,
certain work ethic.
I'm pretty sure they're going to show up to work on time, you know. So it does make a difference. So yeah, there's great job opportunities, and you know, it's so important that everybody think about how important it is that we continue with an all-volunteer military, and so there's great opportunities there.
As you look down the pipe, because you certainly touched on it, whether it's from Homeland Security or the potential dangers that lurk out here in the increasing role, tension between various nations, the northern part of this country plays a very strategic role in protecting that northern border.
We do in a huge way. And that is so, as you say, even from Homeland Security and just a military standpoint, but certainly from Homeland Security as well. And Michigan is a northern border state that has the Ambassador Bridge, which is the busiest border crossing on the northern tier of the nation, the Blue Water Bridge, the second busiest border crossing on the northern tier, the Windsor Tunnel, the CN Rail Tunnel that runs under the St. Clair River in Port Huron is the busiest rail entry into the country. So all of us have to remember that freedom is not free, and so the brave men and women that proudly put on the uniform and protect our liberty, our democracy, our freedom each and every day, we owe them an incredible amount of gratitude, certainly, and our veterans as well, right? So I really appreciate you taking the interest in doing something for Military Appreciation Month.
Well, we're glad to do so, and when we finish up with you here, we're going to be talking to some people in Oakland County about services that veterans can get and making sure that they know all the benefits that are on the table and to not leave them on the table. And we would be remiss if we didn't say, as we sit here on Sunday morning, May 7th, I think somebody has a birthday today, don't you?
Now, we're not talking about the birthdays, okay, anymore. But yes,
we
I
do
am
our
29.
homework.
Again.
Well, happy birthday. We aren't going to mention ages or anything like that. Happy birthday, and thank you so much for coming in. And coming up on Spotlight, Lieutenant Colonel Sean Carlson and Tyrone Jordan. We'll be right back. The Oakland County Veterans Resource Fair. What exactly is that?
Well, I'm going to turn that piece over to Tyrone, but I will just say, you know, Oakland County under the Coulter administration has really been focused on going the extra mile for our veterans. We've got 50.
Why has that been a priority?
We've got 53,000 veterans in Oakland County. That's 4% of the population. But it's been a priority to this administration because, you know, we have veterans, and veterans all have one thing in common, that they've served their country and they all raised their hand and took an oath to serve. And we want to make sure that we're going the extra mile for each and every veteran. And we have one of the biggest Veterans Services office in the state of Michigan in regards to, we've got 16 staff that are there to support our veterans in Oakland County. We want to make sure that they're getting the right kind of health care if they need that. Mm-hmm. It's also really important. Veterans just inherently have been trained, basic training, whether enlisted or officer, to really be confident and independent. And a lot of times they won't reach out. So it's really important for us to lean in and extend a hand so that they reach back. These are benefits that they've earned, and we need to make sure that they know of these benefits.
Your title currently is Deputy County Executive, but you also have another title that you don't use as often these days. Retired from the United States Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel when you retired. So this is personal to you as well.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. You know, a lot of veterans sometimes will not engage for veteran services until all of a sudden there's a need there. Until they get past the age and there's a need financially or other perspective. But what we're trying to do is engage those veterans as soon as they get out of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, whatever service or branch that they've served in, Coast Guard. We want to engage them early. We want to make sure that they're going after their GI Bill. If they got GI Bill and education benefits, and that's important. There's some legislation that has passed that even if a veteran goes into a trade, that they can pass that on to their son or daughter from a scholarship perspective. So it's important for us to help them understand. We get them in the system, and then we can help them along the way, whether that's with health care, disability benefits, pension, whatever the case is.
We'll drill down a little bit on your own service in a little bit. Tyrone, I want to skip over to you. Tell us about this fair. It's coming up on May the 25th. That's the first one coming around the corner.
Actually, we do them once a month all around the county because we want to actually bring the services to and the resources to the veterans in their community. And basically what we did is we did the census and we figured out in each zip code how many veterans were in a particular zip code, and we mapped it out so that a veteran doesn't have to drive over 15 minutes to the resource fair. And you'll have an opportunity to get a $50 Meyer voucher. You can get information about benefits. You can get an appointment for dental, dental, or you can also sign up for VA health screening and things of that nature. And you'll also get a 20-pound box of vegetables and 15-pound box of protein.
You have to be an Oakland County resident, and obviously you have to be a veteran.
Correct.
Right, okay. I asked you before the program started because I wasn't a member of the military, so I showed my ignorance, but you have to have your DD 214. So I know the veterans know what that is, but in case anybody out in the audience doesn't know.
It's your discharge papers from the military, and it'll show when you served, and also if you were honorable discharged or not honorable discharged. So that's basically what it is, your discharge papers.
And what I would say too, what's important is Tyrone and the staff at the Veteran Resource, sometimes veterans may have lost their paperwork. They may have moved.
You can help them with that.
We can help them with that and get their DD 214. That just opens up a range of benefits for them.
Okay.
And the Michigan Veteran Affairs Association is there on site, and they can print it out, because some of them are old, you know, maybe 40, 50 years old, or, you know, not legible or whatever. So that's an opportunity for them to get that done too.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Housing is always a big issue. Is that perhaps the number one issue that people come in or face, or would it be something else that's more popular?
Well, pensions and compensation, making sure people are getting, you know, what they have coming. So sometimes there's issues with that, getting access to health care, but we also are trying to help veterans with housing needs. And if somebody has a service disabled connected to the service, their disability, they can get their personal property taxes exempt in Oakland County.
Okay.
And that's a unique benefit.
Yeah. And you have people right there from the VA on hand to be able to help them with their paperwork as well if they are already registered.
Yeah, our Oakland County service administrators are right there to help. These veteran resource fairs are tremendous. They're really helping to reach out to the communities, as Tyrone mentioned, is being within 15 minutes as opposed to just in our Troy office or our Pontiac office. It's allowing people to come. That's a little shorter distance and able to get there. We're trying to support them with some Meyer food card and other things, but we recently, and this is one in regards to.
And you all provide help with transit as well.
That's correct. We will get them to the hospitals and to their veteran appointments, and we have that service. But we had an agent recently. What we're really trying to reach out is to the sons and daughters of a lot of vets, because it's sometimes the sons and daughters that's saying, Dad, Mom, you know, are there some benefits? You were in the service. Let's go to this resource fair.
Or a spouse of someone.
Or a spouse.
Right. Yeah.
And we had someone visit one of the resource fairs, talk to one of our service persons, Danielle, right, in the office, encourage them. This person was applying for VA benefits since the mid-'80s and was denied. They encouraged them to put in another request, help them draft that, so they didn't have to go to an attorney, help them draft this request. The case came back in September this past year and said, we're going to award you $150,000. And so that was great, but our team said, hey, this is tremendous, but you're entitled to more. Let's appeal this. So they appealed that, and at the end of November, just after Thanksgiving, the VA sent another note and said, you're correct, and it was over $800,000 that this veteran was able to receive. So that's to the help of Tyrone leaning in and at the resource fairs, encouraging people to come out, but our service administrators being there ready to assist.
And so often you need somebody who understands the system and the intricacies of the system.
That's right.
To help walk you through, which if you're just coming in can be pretty daunting sometimes, and perhaps a whole lot of paperwork that you have to do.
That's right. And the rules and everything else, the regulations that go along with that.
Sure. Tyrone, this also involves quality of life. Sometimes it's the little things that seem like little but are a big thing. You were talking about the fact that even visiting our many parks around here, you get special permits that the average veteran may not know about.
Yeah, actually, Oakland County Parks provides a permit for each veteran that expires in 2029 and gives them an opportunity to go and learn about the parks and not have to pay. And that's a big benefit for them.
That's right. And some of those parks have golf courses on them, don't
they? I already asked about that, Chuck.
I said that for our director, who's a veteran who does a whole lot of golfing, so he might not have to pay as severe fees. Sean, let me go back to you for a second. Reflect back. You spent how many years in the military?
I joined in 1987. I was 17 years old. I went to boot camp in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I joined the Army. Then I went to school at MSU, and then I was commissioned as an officer in 1992, and then I left in 2014. I retired from the United States Air Force as Lieutenant Colonel.
If you're a young person out there, maybe you're in high school, maybe you're in college or trying to make that decision about what you want to do next, talk about the benefits and the opportunities that can come from whatever branch of the service that you may go into and how that serves you long term.
Best decision I ever made in my life. I tell this, I've spoken a few times at Veteran Day at the local high school and say, there's two special days in every person's life. The day that you were born, which we all don't remember, but our parents do.
Right.
And the day that you find your gift, whatever that gift is, to serve. And I think the military has a unique opportunity to help people and to help veterans and help people who may not have a sense of direction, but have a heart to serve. And I can't, it was a tremendous choice for me. I love my career. I've spent active duty, reserve, and National Guard. And so it's not for everybody.
And
but
you did some secret stuff you can't tell us about, right? All right, we
I want to get in trouble.
We won't put you on the spot with the U.S. government. Tyrone, you want to add a final note here?
Well, these resource fairs, we wanted to bring the resources to the community and make it easier for the veterans to get the benefits that they've actually earned. So this is an opportunity for them to, at one point we even had haircuts, so they get their haircut monthly and things of that nature. And as Sean said, that Oakland County is changing, and we want to actually bring the services to them and not just have them go to Pontiac or Troy, but we want to have them in Wixom and Southfield and Pontiac and Hazel Park and other different places.
And make sure the veterans and their families realize that these are lifelong services. Once you've served, that this is not something that 5 years after you've been out of the military, they turn off the spigot. As long as you're around here, you can avail yourself of these services.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Sean Carlson and Deputy County Executive, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tyrone Jordan, Resource Coordinator for these Veterans Affairs in Oakland, thank you so much for joining us. That's it for this week. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.